Housing unaffordability has been accelerating in the past few years. This is the median sales price for existing homes, and you can see that the prices follow a slow and steady increase after the housing crisis of 2008, but have really started to hit the afterburners in 2019, 2020, and beyond. More and more, people are finding that entry-level homes are impossible to purchase, so they end up renting with no hope or no plan in sight. You would think that with the current economic environment of high interest rates that prices would come down, but that's actually not happening right now. So we're going to look into the data of why this is the case, as well as why entry-level homes might be just a thing of the past. Now, in looking at this graph here, the typical new home has grown quite considerably in terms of square footage since the 1950s, with medium home sizes going from just under 1,400 square feet all the way up to 2,000 to 2,200 square feet. In addition, the typical household also has an average of one fewer person living in it these days. Now, back then in the 1920s and 1950s, even all the way up to the 1990s, there were such a thing called a starter home. Now, a starter home back in the day was basically a 2 or a 3 bedroom house, about 1,400 square feet. And if you were to buy one in today's dollars, it would be around $200,000. In general, starter homes were pretty plentiful across the country. Back in the 1940s and 1950s, about 65 to 70% of new homes were starter homes. And back then, the median price of a starter home in today's dollars would have been around $50,000 US. But starter homes don't really exist in this day and age. In fact, only 8% of new homes constructed these days is what's considered a starter home. According to this article, it's because land costs have risen considerably, as well as construction materials and government fees have gotten more expensive, and the market just generally demands bigger homes in general. In Portland, Oregon, for example, a plot of land there might cost you $100,000, and then the permits to build might be another $40,000 or $50,000. Right there alone, you have $150K in just costs before you even build the actual house itself. So you can see how selling a home, a starter home for $200,000 might be quite an impossible task for these construction builders. In fact, most 1,400 square foot homes across the country right now are running between $400,000 and $600,000 in terms of their list price. In general, that's the price you're going to be expected to pay for an entry-level home, and that's not even counting places like California, where I live, where everything is much more expensive. This 1,400 square foot house, for example, is $1.695 million for a 3-2. Now, if you did sign up for my newsletter Hump Days, you would know that I live in this god-awful state where the housing prices are really expensive, but you would also get 2 free newsletters a week straight to your inbox about business news, economic news, as well as investing. Make sure to sign up with the link down below. If you like the videos that we put out here, you'll probably enjoy the newsletter as well. So not only is the absence of the starter home one of the reasons why housing prices have gotten so expensive, but it also has to do with other factors as well, including low inventory across the entire country. For example, in places like Denver, Colorado, where they have some of the lowest inventory on record. Later on in this video, we're going to dive into a really concrete example of how unaffordable it is to own a home, especially in places like Denver, Colorado, as well as some other cost of living areas, so make sure to stick around for that. For now, all you need to know is that housing supply is really a problem due to a number of reasons. So number one, home inventories are tightened across the country. As of this summer, according to Realtor.com, quote, home sellers were less active this June with 25.7% fewer homes newly listed for sale compared to last year. You can see that in this graph that total listings are just way down compared to prior years. Now, one of the reasons these listings are way down is that most people just can't afford a home with the higher interest rates. And with the average 30-year fixed mortgage rate being close to 7.5%, most people are just not even trying to buy a home right now. Logically, we should see home prices come down as interest rates go up. However, that's not really happening completely. We are seeing some lower home price growth rates in certain parts of the country. So you can see that on the West Coast in places like San Francisco, Seattle, and Sacramento, that home price growth rates have actually slowed down year over year. But in places like Miami, they're actually up. The hypothesis here is that home prices were probably overinflated in these West Coast regions a year ago, so they had more room to come down, versus in other parts of the country, they weren't as elevated to begin with. For the most part though, median home prices are not coming down and people are holding on to their homes for a lot longer. Now, why is this? Higher mortgage rates and interest rates are actually contributing to the supply problem because most people that have a home right now, they're probably locked into a much lower rate, especially if they bought between the years 2010 and 2019 when interest rates are really low. So if you're an existing homeowner and you have a mortgage rate of, let's say, 2.5 to 3%, there's no reason you would sell your home right now now just to trade it for another home at 6.5 to 7%. You can actually see this behavior happening in the data from this graphic from Redfin. This lists the turnover rate of American homes across the nation for the first half of the year, and overall there is minus 27.7 or 27.7% fewer homes being turned over compared to 2019. And the biggest contributor of this low turnover rate is a suburban home with 4 or more bedrooms, and right behind that is the suburban 2 and 3 bedroom house. Another contributing factor of low turnover is the fact that single family homes, especially suburban homes, are much in demand right now, especially after the pandemic and all this shift to remote work. A lot of people started getting rid of their condos in favor for a home out in the rural suburbs because that way they could just do their work from home. They didn't have to be in cities anymore. So you pair this higher demand of people wanting to live in suburbia as well as a lower supply because people aren't wanting to sell their homes, and this is kind of where you're seeing the prices being supported these days. Okay, one more graph to really prove this point out further. The US population is 19% bigger than it was in 2000, but the inventory of existing homes for sale is 37% lower according to Charlie Bilello. This is leading to existing home prices and median sale prices to still go up over time quite considerably, especially in the last 4 years. Let's look at an example of what's going on with housing affordability. So this example is going to be for Denver, Colorado, but I'll also compare it to Los Angeles as well as Houston to get a sense of what a more expensive city looks like as well as a more reasonable city. So the median home price in Denver, Colorado is $575,000. Now, assuming you put a 20% down payment on this home at an average 30-year mortgage rate, which is 6.8%, your mortgage payment is $2,998 before taxes and insurance per month. With taxes and insurance, you're looking at $3,337. The median household income in Denver is about $72,000 per year as of most recent census data. So your take-home pay is going to be $55,628 over the course of 1 year. That means you're going to be taking home roughly $4,600 a month if you make the median income. So if we took someone that was trying to buy the median home in Denver, Colorado with a median income level, that means 72.4% of their after-tax income would be their mortgage payment if they were to buy a house there. That means that after the mortgage payment is considered, they would have to live off of $1,268 per month in Denver, Colorado, which I find rather impossible. But let's actually use gross income as a comparison because many of the videos we do on personal finance here, they have these personal financial rules that use the gross income for their standards. If you watch my video on how much housing you can afford, in general, you don't want to spend more than 30% of your gross income on your total mortgage and your total housing payment. So for this Denver home, you would be spending 55.6% of your gross income on the payment if you make the median salary there. And to actually make it affordable and within the rules of good spending, then you would actually have to be earning $11,123 a month or about $133,000 a year. That means that you have to earn close to double the median income in Denver, Colorado to afford a median priced home. That also assumes that you were able to save up $115,000 after tax to afford the 20% down payment in the first place. Now in Los Angeles, if we did the same exact practice, we compared someone who made a median income there compared to the median sales price there, well, you would be spending close to 98% of your gross monthly income on your housing payment. In other words, with the median income that you have in Los Angeles, you cannot afford a home with the median price in Los Angeles. And I'm sure the same is for other cities like New York or Boston or anywhere on the East and the West Coasts. Now, but what about Houston, Texas? Houston, Texas is one of the more affordable places in the country where the median sale price of a home there is $305,000. This is $131,000 less than the median sales price across the United States, which is about $436K. Surely we can afford something here. Well, let's do the math and see where it stacks up. Okay, so the median household income in Texas is about $56,000 a year as of 2021. And so the mortgage payment on a $305,000 home would be $1,857 a month. So your mortgage payment, if you made the median income and were buying a median house price in Houston, Texas, would be about 40% of your gross income. That is probably going to be one of the closest numbers we're going to get to the good spending rule habit of having your mortgage payments and your housing payments under 30% of your gross income. I think these examples just really show us that if you make the median income level in the United States, then you really can't be expecting to afford a home comfortably these days. According to a recent data report, report, in 1988, when the average boomer turned 33 years old, their median home price at the time was $110,000. The median household income at the time was $27,230. That means homes were priced at roughly 4 times the median household income at that time. Now, in 2022, when the average millennial turned 33, the median home price was $433,000 and the median household income was $70,784. That's 6.1 times the median household income of a house in 2022 compared to the 4 times back in 1988. Therefore, what we can summarize is that millennials now face a 53% higher home price to income ratio than their parents might have back in the 1980s. Now, what is the suggested home price to income ratio? According to financial experts, is actually 2.6. So to put that in 2023 or 2024 terms, if a home is $433,000, your suggested income should be $166,000. That's not going to be happening for most people because the median income in the United States is still around $70,000 a year. So most people just end up renting, and that's no surprise because right now renting is typically the better financial choice, especially in those cities where the housing prices are becoming more and more unaffordable. Now, there's actually a ratio in which you can gauge whether it's a better decision to buy versus rent, and this is actually called the price to rent ratio. This ratio compares the price of a median home in the area to the median rent in the area. So for example, if you lived in Houston, Texas, the median sale price of a home there is $305,000 and the median annual rent is $16,080 per year, or about $1,340 per month. Therefore, the price to rent ratio in Houston, Texas is 19. Now, according to SoFi's research here, a ratio of 1 to 15 typically indicates that it's more favorable to buy than rent in a given community. A ratio of 16 to 20 indicates that it's typically better to rent than to buy. And a ratio of 21 or more indicates that it's much better to rent than buy in general. And you guessed it, for most of the cities on this list, which I will link down below, the price to rent ratio is much higher than 21, which indicates that it's much better to rent a house than it is to buy a house these days in a lot of these metropolitan cities. In writing and researching this video, I was trying to think of ways that I can make this more positive for you because I generally like to leave you on a positive note. However, after looking for quite some time, I don't know if there are that many positives to take away. Obviously, if you have a house and you're locked into a low mortgage rate like 2.5 or 3%, that's really good news for you. For everybody else, I think it's just more of a waiting game, and we got to see if the housing prices will come down eventually, because right now they are pretty much at all-time highs, and as you can see, inventory has been quite low this whole year. It is possible that we see housing prices come down in the next few years, but it may not be just as quick as people want it to be. Obviously, there's going to be tons of people predicting what happens to the housing market, but no one really knows for sure, so you just want to keep your head on a swivel and just make sure that you are keeping up to date with the news. I'm going to leave you with one more sobering statistic here. So, quote, if you make $75,000 or less, chances are you won't be able to purchase a home in today's market because those earning $75,000 a year can afford a $250K-ish home, yet homes at that price or less accounted for only 23% of the existing home listings in April of 2023, according to Realtor.com and the National Association of Realtors. So what are your thoughts and what are your plans for renting versus buying a home? I would love to hear them down in the comments. Make sure to check out the Hump Days newsletter down below, and I'm going to leave up my video on how much housing you can afford, like right here or right here, and I'll see you guys in the next video. All right.